Nicely done, show off.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
Today's podcast, we're covering the animated film, A Cat in Paris.
This French animated movie, Ooh La La, shows the double life of a black cat in Paris, and by day he's the pet of a little girl who's become mute after a traumatic incident, but by night he's the accomplice to a notorious cat burglar.
Omelette du fromage! Before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification button for some future podcasts and we'll pause videos.
Absolutely. Thank you for subscribing, for sharing our videos, and following us on social media, Pinterest, Twitter X Twix,
yes,
and Instagram.
Yes.
Now, what's really a standout about this movie is that everything takes place over the course of a single evening.
Yes, which is why the movie's only slightly over an hour. I think it's like, what, 70 minutes? I believe? So
65 minutes.
65 minutes, yes, an hour and 5 minutes, but what's interesting when you watch it doesn't feel like it's gone by and you're not feeling that the 65 minutes. It feels like by the time it gets near the end, you're like, oh my gosh, we're at the end of the movie.
Absolutely. Now, this was actually released in theaters in France. It had a budget of $7.5 million, and it was considered a box office failure because it only brought in $3.3 million.
Ah, okay.
And it was released in December of 2010, and that might have been the problem, putting it out during the holiday season.
Right.
To me, when we were watching it, it felt like a summer movie.
Yeah.
That you'd enjoy watching.
Like A Night in Paris, like a summer in Paris. Yeah.
Right.
And what's funny is that's kind of where a lot of these movies take place when they do Paris films. Like, I know it all kind of got similar to how you had a Monster in Paris too. Yeah, Miraculous feels like it's always summer or spring. A lot of these Paris themed movies usually feel like it takes place in that time of year. So yeah, that is a good point.
Now for the dub, because of course it was released in Francais, the dub voice cast are people we're familiar with, and none of the characters except for Victor Costa has a last name.
Right.
Jean is voiced by Marsha Gay Harden, Claudine, Angelica Houston, Nico, Steve Blum.
Yes, it's Spike Spiegel.
And Victor Costa is voiced by J.B. Blanc, or it's Blank, I think.
Blank, yeah.
And you have Matthew Modine as Lucas, and Mike Pollock as Zookeeper, and Eric Bauza was the dog owner.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's a whole little running gag there.
And Mark Thompson is Mr. Potato.
Oh my god, right, Mr. Potato. So in here is exactly what it sounds like. Now this isn't one of those movies where it's all in silence like we've seen some other shows or movies. It does have a lot of, like you said, voice actors in here, and part of it is done through the point of view of the cat. And what's funny is that the cat really doesn't have a name. It is called the cat.
Yes.
And you see where it starts out in the evening where it's helping the cat burglar rob. And what's interesting about this, and the very first thing you see, is that the burglar doesn't really do like others where they're just kind of taking whatever they want or they're hurting people or anything. He just kind of goes in, sneaks in, takes a couple things he wants, and then leaves and doesn't bother anybody. When we've seen that's different from other portrayals where they kind of just ransack, beat someone over the head, leave evidence everywhere and stuff. I guess he was more sophisticated.
Yes. Now, what I do like are the visuals. It looks like an actual painting. I thought of Picasso, others in that Cubism style.
Yeah.
When you look at it, it looks like a painting come to life.
Right.
And it's got these vibrant, rich colors and hues. And I think that's the most eye-catching thing about the movie.
Yes, absolutely.
And
That's a standout art style.
And since we know France is known for artists and the Louvre, well, this was a great homage to that type of painting.
Right.
And just to artists in general. So I think that was really a great undertaking that they did. We've seen other French animated movies. This is the first one I've seen or remember to actually be that daring and to go that way, and it absolutely positively worked.
Right.
That being said, it might have been a turnoff for some people who weren't used during that time in 2010 to seeing different things. I mean, now you have all different types of art styles, and you have anime, and you have all these different countries
Everything's-
like Korea,
Yeah,
and
everything's
continuing
visually
in
striking.
China and France, and they're all doing all different types of art styles. So it's not a shock to the system. But in
Right.
2010, it probably didn't go over well with people who were used to seeing different types of animated styles.
Right, and now it's such a craving for something different and having a lot of heart put into it. Yes, you're right. This would definitely be more appreciated now more than ever. And it works for the story itself because it would be times that scenes look like paintings, and this whole story kind of paints out like you're seeing a painting in action. And going back to what happened with the cat, the girl, Anne, right? That's her name? I think, right?
The mom's name is Jean.
Right. And they're getting into a story with this.
I think it may be Zoe.
Zoe. Okay, thank you. Okay, with Zoe is that usually when they have cast in these shows and movies, they always have this sort of disposition where either they don't care or
Yes,
they got...
It's Zoe because she lost her voice.
That's it. Thank you. And they always have the disposition like they don't care, they're kind of mean or something. And what I like in here is that, the cat doesn't speak at all. The cat has no voice. But usually they kind of act kind of antagonistic towards their owner or something for laughs. What I do like in here is that the cat generally loves both owners that he goes back and forth to. When he's with the cat burglar, he eats with him the sardines, he takes a little something with him, and he just kind of listens to whatever he says. And then when he goes to Zoe, and it's the day, he always calls up next to her. He's constantly bringing her stuff, which means unless the cat likes you when they're bringing you a blizzard or something, it's an animal, it means they like you, and it brings her stuff every day, so it really loves her to bring some each time. And I do like that it's not biased towards one or the other. It really enjoys spending time with both, and it's dividing up its time. So that actually said a lot about the character without going into so much detail. And with Zoe, as you pointed out, she lost her voice, and
Her dad passed.
Yeah.
He wasn't in the film.
Right.
And we learned he was gone.
Right, and that ends up being the plot of the movie because the mom is a detective, unfortunately a very poor one in one instance.
Yes, and we have to interject this quickly. She was trying to tell her that something was wrong, and she actually started making noises and clawing for her and grabbing around her neck.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to go with the babysitter or
The housekeeper,
au pair,
yeah.
And the mom forced her to go, and it's like,
Yeah.
your kid is clinging to you, can't talk, making these
What the
horrible
heck?
faces
Yeah.
and telling you, they're trying to tell you something's wrong, and she just totally...
Yeah, and it's like, you're the detective, you think you would pay attention to
Thank
your
you.
own kid
Thank
doing this, and that was probably the one part of the movie that was just like, okay, this part's unbelievable, they just kind of forced it to happen so this could keep going. It just kind of like, you didn't have to do that, you really didn't. If she had just questioned something, that would have been something, but she just kind of just keeps going, and it was just a little irritating to see that. And the story of this is that the mother is a detective, and she's trying to find this criminal, and this criminal is the one that actually took out the father, and she's been looking for him for years. And since then, since Zoe lost her voice, and they're thinking that if they get this guy and put him away for good, this will restore her voice and release the trauma. And she's kind of left with the housekeeper majority of the day. She's the nanny. Thank you. With the nanny most of the day, so it's just really her, the nanny, and the cat. And then as the story goes forward, you start seeing both of them start to come together, especially at night, because they wonder where the cat goes at night, that he comes and goes as he pleases. And then
goes to Nico, who's the cat bird.
Right. And then Zoe actually follows him one night to see where he goes, and then that's how the whole thing starts, especially with the main antagonist in, and it becomes a whole sort of literally cat and mouse chase in Paris at night. And it does have some humorous moments, even though the story's a little serious.
Definitely.
And one of the biggest ones is that they keep crossing paths across the house with a dog, and the dog barks every time the cat or somebody's out. And then there's a guy, and I told the dog to shut up 2 or 3 times. When he doesn't shut up, he throws a shoe or a brick at it so it shuts up. Yeah, a brick.
You see the cat get squashed, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, and then the dog
And it's like maybe 30 seconds later.
Dog is barking still. It
gets up.
Yeah, it squeezes off of the... Yeah, an entire chimney falls on the dog because they got so tired of him barking. And yeah, it was something dark, and then all of a sudden he claws out of the chimney, and then... It even avoided and jumped over things that was being thrown at it. It's like, this dog doesn't know when to stop.
He's got 9 lives to stop the cat.
Right.
Now, the villain in here reminds you of like they used to have in the mobster movies, the Italian mobsters.
Mm-hmm.
He clearly was designed to be that way.
Right.
I forgot to say Nico was voiced by Steve Blum. I think we mentioned.
Yeah, we did.
Remind people that that's who he's voiced by, and he looks like one of the old monster movie types,
which is hilarious.
And he's got some bumbling crooks.
You're right, and they all have code names.
And then, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, we had figured out that the nanny was in on it.
Yeah.
And then she reveals herself to be the mobster's girlfriend.
Yes, and I was like, oh my gosh.
And then when you see them, it's not endearing. When they get lovey-dovey, it's like, stop.
It's like, stop.
Yes.
Like, Oh, and tell him who's doing the voice of the antagonist, because I thought it was actually hilarious when you told me. Because you told me this guy has actually been in mobster movies or The Sopranos or something, right? I think it's what you told me. Because if that's true, then that would make sense why he has the role. Okay.
No, unfortunately, he did a really good impersonation, but it was Jamie Blanc, who you know has done a whole lot of other voice acting, and he's actually French born.
Right.
So
okay,
he did such a good job that at first I really thought that he was one.
Right.
And they made the character look like one, but he did a great impression. So
yeah,
he
true.
Been on The Sopranos.
True. And then you have all of the, not one, not two, but 4 bumbling henchmen, and they wonder why they got caught so many times.
And Nico was trying to tell them they went and were going to arrest him, and he's telling them, you're letting the real criminals get away. And Jeannie, her mom, and Lucas, who was her assistant, neither one of them would listen to anything he was saying, and he was making rational sense.
Yeah.
He was explaining why they need to listen to him. And he kept telling her, your daughter's in danger. And again, bad mom of the year.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm not falling for that. And it's like,
how would he know about this information?
Do you know where your daughter is now?
Yeah. It's like, oh, how would he know this information?
No, but you're not going to get me. And it's like,
oh, yeah. The other thing was the weakest part of the movie was her not believing anything he said, or the daughter was trying to tell her. And like, I don't know if they just wanted to try to drag out some more or build up tension, but it felt like that part was a little weak on Emmy, because it was like, if you just listen, you would have already gone to them faster.
True. Now, of course, the movie has a happy ending.
That's good.
The way the villain gets caught is hilarious, because you're thinking he's going to
go splat.
It goes splat, and he keeps ending up being saved
by
these crazy, like Looney Tune type
circumstances. And then on top of that, he and Nico keep like jumping on rooftops, and this guy, you can tell, is a little bit heavier than Nico. Victor's heavier than Nico, and he's just leaping from rooftop to rooftop like he's Spider-Man. He's hanging on things, swinging on things. Like, this guy is agile for a guy that's supposed to be this old and this heavy. So it's like, what? He's defying physics.
Yes.
You sure he's not a cat burglar too?
And then Zoe's mom, Jean, and Nico, the cat burglar, you knew they were going to end up together once they looked at each other.
At the end
of the movie, they end up a couple.
Oh gosh. Well, that explains the stubbornness.
So although it didn't do well in France, it actually fared better in the U.S. It got an Oscar nomination here.
Wow.
And back when you could trust Rotten Tomatoes in their reviews, it got an 83% rating based on 64 reviews. And it says, quote, a cat in Paris depicts the stylish, imaginative world with a wonderful soundtrack and Hitchcockian overtones. And that's true. The music was fantastic, played by an actual orchestra.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We even let the end credits roll just to hear some more of the music.
And then The New York Times called it a gorgeous hand-drawn feature. So now you know it was hand-drawn.
Yes.
That is one of the highlights of the festival. It was shown at the San Quentin Sejong Film Festival in the U.S. And it's just a really interesting, fun watch, gorgeous to look at, great music. We really recommend that if you've never seen it, you check out this an animated adventure crime film.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially being done in 2D animation.
Yes, absolutely. You always need more 2D stuff.
And to be done this well, where it's this beautiful to look at and remind you of paintings, absolutely. If you love to see things that are out of the box in animation, this is one to see. It was well ahead of its time.
Yes, absolutely.
So we saw this on Tubi.
Yes, for free.
So if you've seen A Cat in Paris, let us know what you think in the comments below. Did you see it when it originally came out in the 2010s, or did you see it later like we have? Let us know. And if you haven't seen it, it's available on Tubi to watch free, of course. You don't even need to have an account.
Right.
Just go there, give it a watch, come back and tell us what you think. We'd be interested to hear what you have to say.
Right. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates, include videos, favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, share it with your friends. And don't forget to follow us on Pinterest, Twix, which is Twitter X,
Yeah. Right.
Instagram, under Paws On Animation for all three.
Yes. So, thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And a Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.